Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now we do have season 6 changelog, so full information about season 6 and also previews of season 7 and 8. This time we actually are gonna get to know the nodes kind of quite a bit in advance. They are still subject to change, but they said that it shouldn't. Now, as hard as Kabam is trying to swipe all the mess of season 5 under the rug at the moment, I will play into it for a bit. I wanted the first video of today to be, relatively chill, factual, before I get myself worked up with all the shenanigans that have been happening on Kabam forums and all the incredibly ludicrous things that Kabam has been saying about Season 5 leaderboards. But we're going to put that aside, and before we unpack it in the following videos today, we're going to be taking a look at Season 6, Season 7 and 8. Right, so the first big changes. This season we are also introducing the all new meta selector for friendly matches. With this new feature, players will be able to select either the victory track or gladiator circuit on their friendly invite matches. This is absolutely awesome. That means the tournaments can be run with the gladiator circuit nodes as well. And again, it isn't going to be for everybody. I know that a lot of people prefer victory track nodes typically because they are easier than later week gladiator circuit nodes, so on and so forth. But for me personally, this is definitely a very big deal, and I'm super happy that they're doing it. Most importantly, because now you can actually practice for gladiator circuit fights. Because previously, when gladiator circuit nodes changed, you had no option but to just immediately go in there and see what works, what doesn't, and obviously that affects your rating. Now you can actually do friendly matches in order to practice for the new gladiator circuit nodes before you actually start kind of like sacrificing and jeopardizing your rating. So I do like that a lot. Again, it's not for everybody, I think, but in general, I quite like it. So, new season starts March 15th, which is going to be the Wednesday, which is fine. It's perfect, I suppose. I still preferred when they started on Mondays, but okay, let them be Wednesdays, I suppose. And let's see, the victory track node for the entire month is going to be Conflictor, basically, where every 7 seconds the next debuff triggered by the attacker is immediately purified. Each time this effect triggers, the defender gains half a bar of power. So it is quite powerful, quite annoying node that not too many champions can get around that well. In War, we typically use, for instance, Magneto House of X pre-fights, not to trigger Conflictor on parries, but obviously that's not going to be an option here. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's fair for victory track. We're also going to have arms race. Both the attacker and defender gain a passive fury during their special attacks based on the defender's power. And this node's actually very interesting because as you're going to see that you get a massive attack bonus if opponents are above 2 bars of power. And that is going to make a few champions extremely powerful. I think Infamous Iron Man is going to benefit greatly from it because he wants to launch his specials whilst opponents are about 2 bars of power anyways. I think Dr. Doom is going to get significantly stronger. A whole bunch of other champs. So it's going to be interesting to see how this node speeds up the meta. Now, Gladiator Circuit, it's the same nodes except that both champion special attacks are unblockable. This makes it much harder. And it being Gladiator Circuit Week 1, most players will not have to deal with it though. So Week 2, Close Encounters. Close to the attacker, you regenerate 1%. Away from the attacker, you degen 3%. This node is going to be quite punishing, especially with few defenders. For instance, if you need to go up against a Mephisto without an Incinerate immune or something like that, it can be quite tricky. Now we're going to have Catatonic. Whenever the attacker is inflicted with root effect, they're also inflicted with passive Disorient. And Root or Rooted. Every 12 seconds, the attacker gets passively rooted for 5 seconds. If the attacker is far away from the defender when this triggers, the defender gets passively rooted instead. So it's going to be quite tricky to manage this with Close Encounters, but it does look quite interesting. I'm up for it. Now, Week 3 next season is where the difficulty level definitely is going to increase. So, the defender begins with 2 indestructible charges. Each heavy attack strike against the defender removes 1 charge. So it means you will want to use champions that have at least 2 hits on that heavy attack because of following reasons. In Wade, both champions have 100% block penetration and 300% increased attack rating while hitting block. So somebody like Valkyrie is definitely going to enjoy this. But also, right back at it, when the defender is knocked down by a heavy or special attack, they become passively debuff immune for 8 seconds. So this is going to make it kind of hard for single hit heavy champions to start the fight proper, because, you know, more than likely you're going to have to parry, take a whole bunch of block damage, knock them down if you need, and then they go debuff immune, so you need to wait 8 seconds and rinse and repeat. So if you have to do that, it could be quite tricky. On the other hand, we do have some champions that are very, very interesting and cool with Invade. Right, we do have the Hulklings, the Valkyries, the Massacres, and the Karnaks even. So I kind of look forward to this meta. It does look quite tricky, it definitely does, because if opponent throws a special attack in your block, it's going to hurt somebody like Punisher 2099. But at the same time, there could be some interesting offensive options. Week 4 is even rougher than that, because you're going to have Backblast. The attacker's critical rating is doubled. However, if the damage from critical hit exceeds 5% of the defender's max health, or the attacker lands 4 or more guaranteed crits throughout the fight, the attacker suffers from an Incinerate debuff, dealing damage equal to their last crit over 5 seconds. Hot and Bothered reduce attacker's defensive ability accuracy by 80% while they have Incinerate on. And High Energy Die, the defender has 99% energy resistance, and any hit that deals energy damage regenerates them for the damage of what would have been done. And while the defender is afflicted by an Incinerate, Shock, or Cold Snap debuff, the defender gains 100% of bar power every 10 seconds. So this does sound quite specific in the roster department, without a doubt. You're basically going to be limited to champions that really do not hit hard and find their damage elsewhere, or Incinerate immune. So it's going to be interesting to see what works, what doesn't. For instance, champions like Mr. Fantastic and Galen should still probably work because they don't really hit that hard, or Mr. Fantastic has ability to reduce the damage over time, effects incoming once he does kind of ramp up. Galen also still has that energy resistance. So yeah, it's still going to be very interesting to see what happens here. So ultimately, I do think that, you know, Season 6 looks fine meta-wise. There are going to be obviously tons of other problems and worries about the Battlegrounds situation, but node-wise, it does look challenging. And I like that. I like nodes and metas when it's not necessarily straightforward. I really do not like nuke metas personally, where all the fights end in, 30 seconds. That being said, the Backblast is definitely going to interact extremely interestingly with a handful of champions, like Ghost, for example. If we all remember 6.22, I believe, Mr. Sincere Chapter, Ghost is an absolute maniac on these nodes. So Ghost could potentially be an absolute crazy here. Anyways, and then we can quickly take a look at Season 7 metas, which is going to be Brute Force, Fight or Flight, Dauntless. And this is going to be one of the things that I'm personally not overly affected by, but I'm definitely not a big fan for either. Starting Season 7, Kabam is effectively going to be pushing strikers hard in Battlegrounds. And that means that you will start every fight with your striker spirit gauge, or so striker meter half filled, in like every week, every meta, victory track everywhere, and that will still extend for Season 8. So here Kabam is, actively going to be pushing the use of strikers, and again, on a personal level, I have plenty of relics, and they are bound to the most useful champions and stuff like that, but it does feel like if you do not have a lot of relics, you're going to be in quite significant disadvantage going forward, or it just feels like a push of relics yet again, which is one of those things where you can clearly say that the relics as a thing hasn't really caught on yet, or who knows if they ever will, and Kabam how to justify the investment of their money somehow, I suppose. But yes, so victory track, we're going to have brute force and fight or flight. So this is quite interesting combo, don't mind it. In Gladiator Circuit, there's also going to be Spite added to it. That is much harder, but that's week 1. Again, we do not care about that. Week 2, 90% energy resistance node, aggression prowess and prowess buildup unblockable. So also quite interesting, I'd say. I don't think this is going to be too problematic. It's fairly straightforward. I would say that, yeah. just be aggressive. If you're not aggressive, they're going blockable, I suppose. And other than that, there's no real limiting factor in this meta. Week 3, whenever the champion will receive any effect they are immune to, they generate 33% of bar power. Fair enough. Fisticuffs, first 20 seconds of the fight, neither champion can activate buffs or debuffs. And Footloose, after activating a special attack, defender becomes unstoppable and has a 25% chance to evade. Now, this is going to be a Liquid Courage Double Edge meta, I think. I'm quite sure that this is going to be a Liquid Courage Double Edge meta because both defenders and attackers will have their debuffs purified by Fisticuffs, so there's no immediate, like, real downside aside from recoil from running it. And, yeah, I do think that this is going to be where recoil players rejoice in Week 7. And Week 4, everybody's favorite node, No Retreat. Then we have Long Distance Relationship and Cold Turkey. This one does sound rough. This one sounds very rough, to be honest. Because No Retreat, obviously, you do not want to be dashing back twice, but with Long Distance Relationship, you kind of have to often in order to clear those weaknesses off you. So I'm not entirely sure how this meta is going to look like, but it does seem like one of the most annoying, kind of miserable ones in a while. In general, I'm not a fan of Long Distance Relationship. We had it on Victory Track, and I really dislike playing under this node to begin with, but adding No Retreat to it and Cold Turkey, thus getting rid of, you know, champions like Kingpin and Crossbones and stuff like that, could be quite rough there. I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy this Week 4. And then Season 8, entire month, Masochism over time, Picture of Health, immune to regenerate modification. That's fine. And in Gladiator Circuit, they put bleed the attacker over 60 seconds from the start of the fight. So only bleed immune champions allowed in Gladiator Circuit there in Week 1. But again, it's just Week 1. It doesn't really matter too much. Week 2, Compel Duel, Special 1. When the defender activates their Special 1 within striking distance, the attacker is passively routed until the final hit of the attack. This one's kind of okay, fine. It's not too bad in general. I have to deal with this node every AQ when I try to take the Toad boss. And then we have Powerful, immune to all forms of power manipulation. This could be quite annoying. Also, Power Focus, the defender gains plus 60% combat power rate while below 1 bar of power, but suffers 80% combat power rate while above. I actually quite like that, because this means, well, I mean, this is likely going to be quite aggressive meta, where you just try to make sure opponent doesn't use his Special 1 and you just rip into him. So this is probably going to be quite nuke fest meta, more than likely. But, you know, we'll see how it works out. Week 3, Power Snack, Crayon the Feeble, and Prowess Puncture. So every 7 seconds, the next buff triggered by the attacker is immediately nullified. And then they gain 75% bar power. Whenever the attacker buffs are nullified, expire or fail to trigger due to the chance the defender gains a passive prowess, increasing the special attack damage by 100% until the next special attack. And each time the defender gains a prowess effect, they also gain a non-stacking prowess impact charge, giving them 60% block penetration. This one, I think it's fair enough. I think it's somewhere in the middle of the difficulty. I don't think it's going to be too awful. And Week 4, for each buff on the defender, the attacker has their defensive ability accuracy reduced by 30%. All buffs on the champion last 40% longer. And the attacker starts with their spirit. Okay, so the Week 4, it's going to be nuke meta. Out of all of the final weeks, I think this is the one I look forward to least, because this is clearly going to be just 30-40 second fights at all times, basically. Because, yeah, okay, you can't parry. That's it. You know. There's basically no nodes. I am kind of shocked to see this on Week 4 in the Season 8. Because, yeah, it just basically means, okay, your parries will not work. But there's no other nodes. It could almost be like an unnoded season finish, which I'm not a fan of. So I'll probably do worst in this one, to be honest. Anyways, so these are the nodes. More specifically, Week 6, Conflictor. So I will make a video on which champions I think will deal with Conflictor the best. So, you know, potential victory track MVPs. And other than that, the season, it does look tricky, but at the same time interesting. I do look forward to the nodes of Season 6 personally. Let me know what do you guys think about these nodes. which ones did you like, which ones are you worried about, and I will catch you guys later. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the